I'm Chuck Grassley. Fred Whitehurst was going to introduce me, and Fred's a very good friend of mine, and I was glad that somehow we were able to help him bring justice for all Americans when the scientific community at the FBI does their work the way they're supposed to. Thank you, Fred, for everything you did. I'm also very happy to join all of you in showing my appreciation for whistleblowers. Often, these people don't get much appreciation or hear many kind words. In fact, whistleblowers are called all sorts of things. Trust me, I've heard them all. A lot of folks dismiss whistleblowers for not being team players. They won't just go along to get along. They're called disgruntled or selfish or insubordinate or disrespectful of authority and disrespectful of the chain of command. Critics throw around these words as if they automatically undermine the very legitimate claims of whistleblowers. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or even a lawyer to see how short-sighted that is. The facts, or the folks pointing fingers at whistleblowers, are often the ones most responsible for the wrongdoing in the first place. They are also the most likely sources of retaliation. We passed the Whistleblower Protection Act over a quarter of a century ago, and employers still use all kinds of tricks to retaliate against those patriotic Americans. Managers drum up bogus, retaliatory investigations against whistleblowers. They demote them, they fire them, they ruin their reputations. Some of the latest tricks are new but pretty sneaky. My committee is investigating the FBI's use of loss of effectiveness orders to retaliate against employers who report sex discrimination. Before my committee investigated these orders, the FBI kept these secret from employees, and employees had no opportunity to appeal the loss of effectiveness orders. U.S. Marshal Service whistleblowers tell me that managers threaten to use the Freedom of Information Act to learn who has reported wrongdoing or talked to the Inspector Generals. Then they retaliate against whistleblowers. This behavior creates an environment of fear, which it's meant to. It chills protective speech, which it's meant to, and it perverts the Freedom of Information Act. However, experience shows us that silencing patriotic people that we call whistleblowers just allows wrongdoing to fester and to spread. By pointing out problems, whistleblowers foster transparency and makes it possible for their organizations to do better. Transparency brings accountability. After all, you can't fix something if you don't know it's broken. That is just common sense. Of course, you know Washington's an island surrounded by common sense. Many whistleblowers bravely report their concerns internally to their supervisors before they even think of themselves as whistleblowers. In other words, they just want things to be done the right way, the way the law requires. They expect that their organization then will take corrective action. But many employers don't listen. Then they discover they could have saved a lot of time, money, and embarrassment by taking a whistleblower seriously. The taxpayers could have saved $1 million on Dr. Whitehurst if they had listened to him in the first place, because that's what they had to settle with him for. In the 1990s, Fred wrote hundreds of letters reporting serious flaws in forensic analysis at the FBI crime lab. He was subjected to personal attacks, retaliatory investigations, and suspensions. But a 1997 Inspector General report validated those claims. The report said the examiners did shoddy work that led to inaccurate testimony of criminal cases. Then the FBI and the Justice Department failed to adequately review the examiner's flawed analysis and inform defendants of evidence that could clear their names. According to the Inspector General, that failure led to irreversible harm for many defendants. 20 years after Fred first blew the whistle, the agency finally admitted its mistakes. According to the FBI, the examiners gave flawed testimony about 90% of the time, including even in death penalty cases. This is what happens when organizations treat whistleblowers as liabilities instead of assets and treat them like a skunk at a picnic in the organization. Experiences also show us that we need to protect whistleblowers who use lawful external channels to report waste, fraud, and abuse. One example of this is the False Claims Act. Before I co-authored those amendments, much of the outrageous fraud in government contracting was undetected and unprosecuted. Since the amendments which empowered and protected whistleblowers, false claims suits have recouped over $42 billion in taxpayers' funds. Another example is congressional oversight. Whistleblowers help Congress to ensure the laws we pass work the way they're supposed to. Without whistleblowers, we might never have known about gun walking, Operation Fast and Furious, the mismanagement of the juvenile justice programs, or misuse of the EB-5 immigration programs. Whistleblower disclosures like these help bring greater transparency, better litigation, and what we should all hope for, and all whistleblowers, I think, wanted in the first place when they first brought it to the attention of somebody, government just doing what government's supposed to do. No one then can dispute that we need whistleblowers. So why do I still get calls every day with fresh stories about reprisals on reporting wrongdoing? Part of the problem is that there is still much legislative work to be done. Example, the law does not protect FBI whistleblowers who report wrongdoing to their supervisors. These are things Congress must work on. Unfortunately, no amount of legislation will change the culture that punishes whistleblowers in the first place. To be effective, laws have to be enforced, and wrongdoing doers have to be held accountable. With their words and actions, leaders have to make clear that whistleblowers are important and retaliation is not tolerated. For many years, I've asked every president, going back to Reagan at least, to have a Rose Garden ceremony honoring whistleblowers, because we need to have it from the top of the bureaucracy to the lowest level of the No president has ever taken my suggestion, as you know, or we would be there instead of here today. But it's a sad commentary when on Air Force One, and I'm not going to tell you which president it was, but I suggested that when I had a private meeting with the president, nobody else to interfere. And he says, if we did that, 3,000 whistleblowers would come out of the woodwork. Well, that's exactly what we want to happen. All right. Now, you've heard about the Whistleblower Caucus. 12 colleagues have joined. Get your senators to join. We have an equal number of Republicans and Democrats, That's the way you get things done in the United States Senate. Whatever their affiliation, my colleagues on the caucus agree with me that whistleblowers should be valued and not punished. That is why I'm here today to show you nothing but Grassley appreciation. The first whistleblower, what I'm going to tell you about this whistleblower, I saw him in the nursing home 2 weeks ago. The first whistleblower I ever met, Ernie Fitzgerald, once told me that the only thing whistleblowers are guilty of is committing truth. Like Ernie, many of you here have risked your career, your personal well-being, and your reputation by committing truth. You have shined a light on fraud and unlawful activity, saved the taxpayers' money, and helped us in Congress write better laws. You have made a difference, and if you keep it up, you will continue to make a difference, and maybe we will have a Rose Garden ceremony sometime.